All right, here we go. I've just backed up my folders and I'm ready to dig in further. Now, one thing that I noticed going back to my original design is my type was bigger than I actually chose inside of Dreamweaver, which brought up a couple points. So, well, let me first show you the W3 schools. CSS section under CSS fonts, you can see that the formula for figuring out your font size from a traditional design like what we have in Photoshop is you take the pixel size divided by 16 and that's your M. The reason is because the default size in most browsers is 16 pixels or 16 points. Those are pretty analogous to each other. So I looked back on mine and my main type size is 24. 24 divided by 16 is 1.5. Now this brought up another problem. Keep an eye on these two headers when I go in and I change my font size to 1.5 in the body. See how they got bigger as well as the text? So the problem is that they kind of multiply on each other. You have this 1.5 in here and then 2.7, and I don't really know if it's this times this is what the number you get. But after doing some more research on this, I found out the king still is just put in 100% in the body and then define your size for your type later, just like they're still showing on the W3. Font size 100% in the body. That gets rid of problems in old browsers, but plus well, I guess you could get rid of this if you were sure you weren't going to use any browsers, but you don't want to put the M size in the body and then use M size later on because they're both percentages. So this is what we're going to follow. So we'll change this to 100%. And then we will go in and we will figure out the size for each thing. May as well start with the body, and well, when I say body, I mean in general, the everything. So basically my everything would be paragraphs. So I'll just, for the P tag, I'll put in my 1.5 M's. Just like we did with our CSS project, we'll keep the most generic stuff up near the top, like H tags and P tags. I'm just going to do a copy and a paste. I realize it's pretty handy being able to write the stuff over in the side panel, but I find that sometimes this is just quicker. So I'll change that H1 to P, and then get rid of everything in here except for font size and just make that 1.5 M's. Clean it up. Yes, welcome to graphic design in general. Every fix causes a problem. So what's the problem here? Everything's too close together. So now we need to go and look at what our leading is, or what it's called in website development, the line spacing. So mine was 32 back in the Photoshop design. So I need to go back into the body and do the math. And where it says line height, 32 divided by 16 is 2. So that should become 2M. And now you can see it looks more like it did in my original planned out design. My H1 was 48 points, so that would be 3 M's. And then we have the H2 tag is 2 M's. So now you can see we're getting the hierarchy back. We're just right here. Our navigation is a little bit on the small side. That was also 1.5 M's. So we'll copy this here and we'll paste that into nav and see if that fixes the problem. Looks like it did. Okay. So that's where we're at right now. One other thing I want to address is that I have this word contact is going to be a link. But since I'm not sure yet how I'm going to style that until I figure out the rest of the navigation, I don't want to forget it, and this is a good lesson in working with clients. So I'm going to go into the source code and I'm going to put a H1 tag around that so it sticks out like a sore thumb until I have a chance to fix it. So we'll go ahead and with CSS, well, you know how to do this. We're just going to wrap it with the paragraph tag. I'm sorry, the H1 tag. Okay, so I cannot forget that now. Sticks out like a sore thumb. And then one other thing that we've noticed as we've been previewing this is that we have the default margin, which in my case I keep previewing with Chrome, but I'm sure you'd probably see that with just about any browser, maybe a little bit different. But we want to design all this stuff ourselves, not have the browser throwing in any spaces in here. You know, they kind of do this for bad designers so that things don't get all, you know, caught up on top of each other. But I'm going to give you a little bit of code here to throw in, show you where you can copy it from. If you go to one of the sites that I have, it's just stevegunzowski.com. I'll wait a second here so you can make sure you've got that address. And when you go in here to anybody's site, you may not have realized this yet, but every browser has a way of letting you view their code. So in Chrome, it's view and then developer and view source. And that shows you the HTML for that page. And then the if you click on main CSS, it'll take you to that person's main CSS page. And this is what I want you to copy and add to your CSS. So Command C, copy, go back to Dreamweaver, main CSS page, and we want this way up at the top, like the very first thing that shows up in here. And what that's doing is taking every place that a browser could put text in, and it's zeroing it out. It takes every place that a browser could put padding or a margin in, and it zeroes it out. And as you can see, at first that really messed up my whole site. But if I look at this closer, I can see one, there is an error right here. The error doesn't always show up where it makes sense, but if I take a close look at this, I can see I've got the opening bracket there. I just don't have the closing one. So let me go ahead and get in here and add that, and that should bring us back to right. And now do a quick preview of your site, and you should see that all the extra padding and margins are gone. It does look quite bad right now, but we're drinking milk. So before we delve in, one more thing that I want everyone to do, and that is we're going to create some junk pages for right now, because we are going to start working on the nav, and we want to be able to test and see if it's going where we think we're going. So we'll do a file, save all, then we'll make sure that we are on the source code, the HTML tab here, and we're just going to go file, save as, and then we are going to make our portfolio page. But this won't really be our portfolio page, but it's a good tester page. We'll save that. And then you can see we have that extra page. And so what we'll do is in here, we will get rid of everything but that H tag that's in there. Come on, wake up here. And then inside of the H1 tag that is in our section, we'll just put the name of the page. So in this case, I'll just put portfolio placeholder. I'll repeat the same process, do a file, save as, name that page contact, put in a contact placeholder. Get rid of this too. Okay. Keep in mind that the home button is still just the pound sign. Not really worried about any of that, because we can use the back button to take us back to the pages. So if we go to the index page and we preview that, what we'll see is now if we click on portfolio, takes us to the portfolio page. If we click on home, it's not going to take us back, but we can just use the back arrow to get us back there. Contact takes us to contact. These two work because they're at the same level. Okay, So now the next video will only apply, and you just got to look at the table of contents for the next couple of videos, but the next one is just going to apply to people that have a header with the navigation going this way. So I'm guessing what I'll do is I'll just stagger the videos. Every other one will be for the people going that direction, and every other one will be for the people going the other direction until we pick up common ground again with the portfolio.